Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are watching us from. I am Comfort Eyitayo, your regular host for Connect with Comfort show. On this show, as we always say, we add value to people on business, enterprise, and personal growth. Each show is organized to feature guests who are subject matter experts that will throw more insight on the topic of the day. I'm glad you are able to join us today. You are most welcome. Today's topic is an interesting one and a must have. So it's my singular honor to welcome all of you to this important session on communication skills for business leaders. Effective communication is a fundamental aspect of leadership that not only drives success but also fosters a collaborative and innovative environment. In the world of business, and I would even add, even a personal world, we need communication, the ability to convey ideas, inspire teams, and engage stakeholders is very, very critical. As business leaders, our words and actions have the power to shape the culture of our organizations or business ventures. It also has the power to influence decision making and steer our companies towards achieving their goals. Today, our desire is to share with you insights that can be applied immediately in your roles, in your businesses as leaders. We will do just that after this time out. Please remain connected while we go on a short break. Thank you. You are welcome back. Our guest is already in the house, and today our special guest for the show is Wendy Emesie. Wendy is an entrepreneur, a consultant, and a strategic project manager with over 15 years of experience in developing and implementing corporate strategies, driving product innovation, and leading successful project teams. She has a proven track record of delivering strategic initiatives and executing enterprise level transformation projects with backgrounds in consulting, financial services, and investment management, that is private equity, media and communications, social development, NGO management, and management of tech startups. You will agree with me, we have an all-rounder in the house, in our special guest of today. Please make welcome with me, Wendy Emesie. Wendy, you are most welcome to connect with Comfort Show. We are glad to have you, and
Thank you
we
so much.
appreciate your time on a Sunday evening to share your experience with us. Thank you.
Thank
You
you
are
so
most
much.
welcome.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we go quickly to the business at hand. We are talking of communication, that I'm sure we all agree that is very, very essential. In fact, it will not be wrong to call it a bloodline for business. So, in making our audience to understand this very interesting and important topic, just to provide a general understanding, let's take our first question. What are the key communication skills that you consider essentials for business leaders?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on your show. Such a pleasure to be here. Like you rightly said in your introduction, I think communication is like the bedrock of everything we do in life. It literally governs our conversations, drives relationship, fosters bonds, drive business interactions. So it's actually like an integral part of everything that we do. And for business leaders to thrive in wherever venture that they're on or at, communication is actually really important. So the first thing about communication that I need to point out here is communication involves two groups of people. So the the
Two-way
communicator and the
street.
recipient, the person that receives the information. So it's just the process of transferring information between one person and another, or between a person and a group of people. And there are different ways you can communicate, either verbally, whether written communication, or non-verbally. And so one effective skill I would start with is, for communication to be really effective for business leaders, I think it has to be clear, very clear and concise. So sometimes communication um, is given in a hurry. Sometimes people are thinking of, they're still, keep thinking through things in their head and trying to articulate what they're trying to communicate. But just because they have to say something, they just put the information out there without actually thinking about who's receiving the information. And so it's important that the two major factors to consider when you're communicating is, what am I trying to communicate? And sorry about the lights. What am I trying to communicate? And who is my audience? Because that determines, that's actually really important in just making sure that your message is concise and clear in itself. So the audience and the purpose for the communication really helps you define that. So communication has to be clear. Active listening is actually really important as well in communication, effective communication. And by active listening, I mean, just paying attention, not, talking and doing other things, paying attention, um, seeking to, get feedback from the person you have just communicated to, so that you can just double check that they really get what you have just communicated.
Understand.
Yes. And then I would say empathy, leading with empathy, because in communication, I think the most important thing is seeking to be understood than seeking to be heard. It's important that the other person understands what you're saying, and so empathy is important. And being patient and just trying to understand the perspectives, on trying to really figure out, what they got from what you have said, and if that's not in line with your purpose, because the most important goal in communication is having the same common ground. You guys have to have a common ground. You understand what I said. I felt like you felt heard. I felt like you were also respected as well. So you have to have mutual common ground. So if that is not achieved, you've not had effective communication. So those are like the key, basic skills that you need to have as that's essential for communication in business environments as leaders.
And fantastic. You really touch on many of the questions to come. That's very good. At least we know now how they relate to our businesses, our ventures, because if we do not pass the message in an understandable way and be sure that it's well understood, we have not spoken. We just opened our mouth. So it's very, very important. Thank you very much for that. So, how do effective communication skills impact a leader's ability to manage a team?
Okay, thank you. So, like I said, driving a business organization, the leader has a vision. He knows what it is. He's put this team together to achieve. They have a set objective. So it's important to, have effective communication because that's the process by which you pass down the vision to your team members, right? So without proper communication or effective communication, you can't sell your vision to the people and they can't own it. They can't run with it. They don't understand what you're trying to do, and you find that you have a missing understanding or a disconnection with you and your team. People doing because what they have interpreted from what you have communicated is not really what you want, you know
Yes.
done. So it's important to be able to, articulate a vision, just align priorities within the team, resolve conflicts, in conflict resolution, there's a lot of perspectives involved, and you need a lot of
Yes.
empathy as well. So those are that's the kind of impact that it has. You want to build trust within your team. You want to build a good rapport. You want people to feel like they're in an environment that they feel heard. You
Yes.
guys have a shared vision, and so
Mhm.
that's the level of impact that communication can have on leadership and why
Mm.
it's so effective.
Thank you very much. What came across strongly in that response is the vision, for people to understand the vision. If you don't understand the vision, excuse me, one person will be going to the right while the other will be going to the left. So to have that goal congress, you have to have proper communication. Thank you. So in specific, you mentioned it when you were answering the first question. Excuse me. I think we just need to understand it more, and that is what role would active listening play in effective leadership communication?
Well, active listening is very important because in this time and age where everybody's in a hurry, with the information age and the digital economy, everything is moving fast. With AI, everybody is in a hurry. They have little attention span. um, People can't wait. People are in a hurry to do things. People are multitasking. And then what we find out is because of a lot of activities going on concurrently, people are not listening, and communication is actually the process of communication is not complete. So active listening it involves listening, and then getting feedback, concentrating, understanding what was being said. Remember the first two things I said is you need to have clear purpose of what you're trying to communicate and think about the audience. So when you have that in place, then you already have the right thing you want to communicate to suit that audience. But also in communication for the other party, active listening is important. Seeking to understand, and relay back what you have understood by what you just heard. And these things are actually really important because we have situations where, yeah, an employee or staff is trying to communicate something to the employer or to the leader, and there is, I kind of get it, and then at the end of the day, maybe trying to let me give an example. I'm trying to communicate that maybe we have yeah, there's a shortfall of, certain level of goods in the warehouse, and maybe I don't have the right communication frameworks or systems in place, and the leader had gotten it, and then but maybe it wasn't really emphasized. Maybe he didn't understand that it was everything that was finished. So it's important at every point in time to drive active listening is actually really key in effective communication, because it builds trust. You ensure that you're able to solve problems effectively and make the right decisions in time.
Thank you
Yes.
very much. So, listening, act of listening is very important. So it's not just you talking, like part of your definition is that it's a two-way thing, like you can call it a two-way street. So
Yes.
it involves more than one person. So you need to listen. So in listening, we are talking of somebody speaking, but what of body language, non-verbal communication? What is the benefit of that in leadership?
Okay, yes, nonverbal communication is actually really important because it just emphasizes what you're saying. So sometimes if I say I'm excited and I don't look excited, it's hard for the other person to believe that
To
this is
believe
what
that's
I'm
true.
communicating, because, oh, I'm so very happy for you. It feels like
Yeah,
you're not happy, right? So it's
yeah.
important that, nonverbal cues, also add a greater part of the communication and enforces trust. It just makes people feel like, okay, this is literally what this person has said. Just gives credibility to what you have said, because people can read your inflections in the tone of your voice. People can see your gesticulations. People can see how you light up when you speak. And there's emotion that nonverbal cues carry, that backs up what you're communicating. So it's actually
So
really important,
it
to just build
underscores,
trust.
yeah, it underscores your spoken, or what would I say, spoken communication. It underscores it.
Yes, yes,
Like
ma'am.
you said, I'm happy, and you see me
And you see that,
smiling and
yes.
all that. That's true. Now, let's talk about communication, the different communication channels. How should leaders choose appropriate communication channel for different types of messages?
Okay, thank you. I think it all depends on the message. Again, the complexity of the message determines what channel you would want to, you know, how you want to pass the information. So, is it an urgent issue? The urgency as well. Is it urgent? Is it time sensitive? And the audience, like I said earlier. So when you have these three things at the back of your mind, and you now think about, for instance, if I'm trying to communicate to someone that he has been fired in a workplace, right? Or I'm trying to give feedback to a team member who has put in so much work, but the effect of the work has not been felt by management or at appraisal. There is the way to communicate. You will now start thinking about the different styles, whether you want to have a face-to-face meeting to have the best impact of your communication, or whether you want to do it via email, or you want to take a phone and call if it's something really urgent, that you need people to, get on immediately, because then the person is listening to you, the person can sense the urgency in your voice and all. So I
Mhm.
think these three factors actually play an important part in just determining what channel you should take. You, and timing is also important, in communicating with different channels, right? If, for instance, it's something really urgent and you delay it to an email, it takes a while for someone sometimes to get their emails. If there's a network bridge and all of that, the emails will not drop as urgently as you would have expected, and then that causes some bit of delay in getting the right things done. So yes.
I think fourth one would really be if you want an evidence to back up your
Yes, yes.
communication, because
Yes,
sometimes if it may become a legal issue, you have to provide evidence. If it's verbal, either phone or face to face, it can be denied, it can be
very
misconstrued.
true.
So
Very true.
maybe that could also be a factor that we have to look
Completely.
at.
Yes, ma'am. I completely agree.
So the other one is what advantages or disadvantages do we have for digital communication tools for leaders? Many leaders use these tools
Okay.
these days.
Yes, thank you. So I think with digital tools and the platforms that we have, it has actually made communication seem really easy. I mean, you can communicate to a lot of people within a short period of time. So right now, we're streaming live and we have a lot of people beyond our location, connecting. So I'm communicating to people beyond our current location. And that's one of the advantages of, communication tools that we have now um, to make sure that, we have a lot of people getting in on the information that you want to communicate. And it also helps you, there are tools that, makes things convenient. So instead of thinking about setting up a meeting, right now with COVID, people now plan webinars rather than, get a hall and rent and stuff. Communication tools, actually help you, just provides the convenience, cost saving and all of that with with um with your communication, but it also has its own cons, like the disadvantages, which I'd say, while you're able to communicate with people and you have speed in communication, you're able to do that conveniently. Sometimes non-verbal cues are missed. You're not able to have that personal connection with people with digital tools. So again, one-on-one connection would actually give you that feel. So we have video sessions like we are having now. At least you can see some non-verbal inflection, my inflection in my voice, non-verbal cues, and you can understand what I'm saying. But sometimes one-on-one meetings, I better feel, or to help people connect on a deeper level. So that is taken away from using digital tools. And you actually have to put in so much effort, and just consistently reiterate the reason and the purpose, why you were communicating, so that the receivers can understand what it is that you're trying to pass across.
Very, very
So
true.
sometimes again, I'd like to add one more thing. Sometimes again, there's information overload with so much, there's communication. You can just pick up and join a live on IG. There's too much information. When you have too much information coming at you, you find out that you're not able to completely
Yeah,
um simmer on one and completely digest one, because there's too much information and data coming at you at the same time.
yeah,
So yes, it has its
that's
pros
true.
and cons.
That's true. Thank you very much for that. Now, how does emotional intelligence, because we heard a lot about this, how does it enhance leaders' communication abilities?
Okay, emotional intelligence, like the name implies, is intelligence with managing your emotions. It's just a
Yes,
system how where you can manage your emotions and manage the emotions of other people. Just understand how it plays a key part in driving effective communication, in driving business objectives, building productivity amongst your team. Emotional intelligence is actually really important. And I think this is one thing that has been in the last few years or more emphasized greatly amongst leaders. It's important to actually increase your emotional quotient. Emotional intelligence is important. That's what stands people out. That's what stands one leader. It's more like a soft skill that stands a leader A from leader B, because beyond having intelligence, you're not the normal hard skills. This soft skill is a strong people skill, because it helps you inspire, motivate your team. You know the right time to just like having tact in conversation. You know the right time to to speak, to hold back feedback. You know what measures you should take. You know what would motivate the next person, handle conflicts amongst your team effectively. These are some of the things that emotional intelligence can help you do. And overall, it helps build trust, an inclusive work environment, and drive, revenue growth if you have everybody on the same team. So emotional intelligence is actually really And you hear that most times, people in emotional intelligence as well, there is you being patient and open to take feedback, because sometimes with communication there's also the feedback, right? Sometimes the feedback is not what we expect. Do we have the patience to take it? Do we know when to give it? Do we know when we should make it constructive, and all of that? So it's really, really important in the business space, in any space, in any space, but especially in the business environment.
Thank you very much. We had a contribution from one of our online audience
Okay.
talking about communication is passing on an action. It's about passing on a clear message which is capable of steering further action. I think that's also very true because
Yes.
depending
Yes.
on what you have in mind, somebody may have a reaction to what, or even another suggestion. So I think that is very true. Thank you very much, Dr. Hussein, for that contribution. The other area I want us to look at in talking about communication is what communication strategies can we say will be effective in resolving conflicts within a team?
Okay, thank you. So in dealing with conflict, is actually a very important part of or element in driving organizational productivity and growth, because you know conflict could arise within teams, conflict could arise within amongst leaders, between leaders and their employees, and conflict could arise within investors, or vendors, during the business transaction. So I'd say whatever you're trying to do in communication, just stay calm. I think in conflict resolution, if both people, are all high, and I think, I guess picking the right time to resolve a conflict is actually really important. Sometimes when people are all fired up, nobody is willing to listen. Nobody is willing to calm down.
That's
So
true.
it might not be the right time to try to resolve the conflicts. So sometimes when people are up in their emotions, you give them some time,
Yes.
have it scheduled, and then when you feel like people have calmed down, then you can try to resolve the issue at hand. So staying calm is important. Listening is important, because most of the time the conflicts that we have is missing communications, the gap in communication. So this person said this, oh, I didn't know that that's what you said. Oh, that I did, you weren't clear. This is what I understood from what you said. This is what it meant to me, and that's what usually causes communication, problems or conflicts in organizations. So I say staying calm, is actually really important. Addressing the issue directly, because sometimes in addressing an issue, it becomes a bigger issue. I'll give an example. So you're trying to address someone an issue, and then you start to speak to the person's maybe speak to the person instead of addressing that issue. So you isolate the issue. The person is not a bad person, but they've made a mistake. So focus on the issue directly and just seek to correct that issue. Seek to have common ground. At the end of the day, it's either a wrong turn that has actually led to this conflict. And if you have to resolve it effectively, you must, also lead with empathy, because empathy is actually really important. Focus on, solutions rather than blame. I want, it's your fault, it's not my fault, never really gets the job done. I think the people that are at fault actually really know. And just saying, I told you so, I just did, just reiterating the problem doesn't really solve the problem. So let's focus on
Like
solution.
rubbing it in. I
You're
said like
rubbing it
rubbing it in. Yeah.
and yes, and people's ego. So once you rub it in, are you trying to say you're not resolving the issue? So let's stay direct. Let's avoid rubbing it in by speaking down at people. Let's also maintain respect is actually really important. Respect, even in resolving conflict, respect is important, and professionalism. You don't want to burn the bridge because you're trying to resolve a conflict that actually
Mm.
had ensued because there was a maybe trying to solve a company problem, and then you burn that bridge forever. No. So those are the things that people or leaders should bear in mind in the workplace to effectively
Thank you
resolve
very
conflict.
much. You've actually addressed the next point, which I was going to talk about employee. When things are difficult, sometimes the element of respect and professionalism can really be at stake in
Hmm.
resolving. But like you said, with the right time in scheduling a conflict resolution, I'm sure if people are calmer and ready to reason and then
Yes.
listen, then things will get better resolved. Okay, thank you. And how should leaders provide constructive feedback to their team members?
Okay. Constructive feedback again. Timing is also important, but sometimes in the workplace, there's no right time to get feedback, right? The feedback is important. You need to understand that the workplace is the workplace, but again, timing is also important in giving feedback. I'll give an example. If you are in an organization where there is that open culture, where you can approach your leaders and say, okay, this does not work and all of that. Sometimes timing is wrong. You get the timing wrong in trying to reach out to your leaders to say, hey, I don't like that, I feel like this should be done, or the company should do this or do that. So timing is actually really important in providing constructive feedback. But again, in just even providing feedback, ensure that the feedback is specific, is clear, very actionable. Sometimes when you want to communicate and you have a longer meeting and you go on talking about the problem and ramble, at the end of the day, people are not able to itemize what it is you really want or you have said out of this meeting. So I would say it has to be specific, very actionable. Again, like I said, focus on the thing wrong or the behavior, not the person. You know, Sometimes people in providing feedback start to talk about things beyond the scope of what is supposed to be addressed, and they start to go back in time to bring up. I mean, if it relates to the situation and you're trying to resolve it, then that's fine. But you know, um, balanced feedback is important. Constructive feedback is almost comes like negative feedback. Like I know nobody's really ready to take criticism in some way, right? So you need to be able to sandwich it. So give positive feedback, give the constructive feedback, and then give the positive feedback. So you can tell I'll give an example. You can tell the colleague, you've been done well, this is what you have done, to drive, the growth of this team, emphasize their strengths, and then you can now give the feedback that you're trying to address. And then close by, also motivating and inspiring. That's more like the sandwich method. So it's good, constructive, and then more like a motivation at the end of the day. So that kind of feedback most times work in the workplace.
Thank you very much. We'll be going on a short break now, but before we do that, I'd like to recognize those who have joined us in the course of the show. Taiwo Ojo from Abuja, Dr. Aseyin from Abuja, Akala from Ogun State, Wendy Garuba Ayeni from Lagos, Adetunji Aderito from Lagos, Kola Olaitan. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be going on a short break right now and we'll be back. Please remain connected.
Being relevant in your field of occupation is proof that you are properly educated. When my parents and I were thinking about my university education, Owen University Iwo was our first choice. Owen University helps you to get the most of whatever course you're studying and also educates you on how to excel in a competitive labor market. From the day I arrived here, I knew when I would graduate, and my mind has been positively transformed since then, thanks to my able lecturers. My name is Salumi. I am a medical student, a sanctuary keeper, and a violinist at Boma University. To the medical world, remember my name.
Bowen University for excellence and godliness.
You're welcome back. Still talking about communication skills for business leaders. And we still have our guests in the house, Wendy, and doing justice to the topic at hand. Now, how can leaders communicate effectively in a multicultural workplace? Because we have that a lot in Nigeria.
Okay, thank you so much. So yes, a multicultural workplace is obviously a place with diverse perspectives, right? You have people from different traditions, different ways of life, maybe white people, black people, um, people have a way of life. You can't take it away from them. People have traditions, right? Or things that they, the way that they know to live. So if you happen to be in a workplace, or leaders in a workplace where there is multicultural, like a blend of different, ethnic groups or different people, I think just being aware of that cultural difference is actually a head start. Understanding what different colonies, or cultures of, or clusters of, cultures exist within my space, and what is peculiar to them is actually a key lead. How do they react, how do they interact, what is peculiar to this kind of people, and then just knowing what method is best to work to provide some bit of synergy amongst all of them in the workplace. So I'd say, as much as possible, use clear and simple language. Clarity is actually really important, because the simpler the language, the more you're able to cut across the different, groups, that exist within your organization. Um, and then I would say that you should also provide platforms or um, tools to take feedback from people. So open surveys, um, polls, anonymous polls, and all of that should be able to encourage people to share their diverse perspectives, and leaders of those sorts should be open to feedback, just providing some level of training as well, on the different cultural, diversities you have within your space would actually really help to help team members even within that space work better with their colleagues. So I would say provide the right training once you begin to identify the different colonies of cultures that exist within your space, and then try a more collaborative, way of, providing feedback. So maybe through polls, or through surveys where people open-ended feedback, where people can feel free to communicate without being judged, or without the limit of culture or tradition involved.
Thank you very much. That is very useful so that we don't step on toes and we don't have a negative impact on those that feel they have been neglected or their interests had not been factored into the business culture. It's very important to make sure that we carry everybody along.
Along,
That's
yes,
very
ma'am.
key. Yeah. Now we know we have different leadership styles, amongst which we have transformational leaders, we also have transactional leaders. In all this, how, in what ways do these different leadership styles compare to each other, as well as which one would you say is most effective? Try to
Hmm.
combine two questions in one.
Okay. So I think, again, it all depends on the people within your organization. I think it's the work for leadership to really determine um what kind of what kind of
Right.
um what kind of style works. For starters, I think what are the kind of employees I have within my organization. Um, Sometimes I mean, even though this style doesn't still exist, but it's not encouraged. It's almost like the autocratic style of leadership where you just give instructions. There's minimal conversation
And
between
that's right.
staff. It's just instructions. This is what you have to do. We don't want feedback. This is management decision. The staff doesn't have any interference whatsoever. That style of leadership does not work, especially if you're looking to foster a collaborative and inclusive work environment and drive productivity within your teams. Um, so I think the better the people kind of adopt would be the more democratic, where it's more like a shared decision making. So the employees also provide their thoughts as well, and what they think would actually really help to drive the organization. And with a democratic style of leadership, people tend to be more open to feedback. I mean, I'm talking about leadership right now. Feedback is encouraged. There are platforms for a two-way communication. Through polls, surveys, emails. There are smaller units where we can. There's HR as well, so you can always go to the HR and give your feedback regarding what you think works. But I'd say a transactional is literally where this is what we want done. It's almost like there are rewards. If you get this done, then this is literally what you get. So if you're able to meet your KPI, and close this deal, then you get this incentive. It's a bit transactional. People are not motivated internally to do it. There's motivation. The incentive is the motivation,
The money,
because it's yes, money is involved. So it's either money or there's promotion and everything. So it's almost like a good dog, a dog. There's no team collaboration. Everybody's hustling for the price. So transactional, yes, you get results, but do you get the growth of your team? Do you inspire people to become leaders, as you go? So again, I would say the transformational leadership is actually the one, because there is a goal. The goal is we can't be the same as we go along in our journey, and it's where the leader or the employer takes the servant leadership, stance or posture, and hold the employees through the journey. So there's learning, there's training, there's feedback, there are open feedback, systems created, to support this form of leadership style. And I beg to say that this style actually is more. It takes a lot of work, because there's mentoring also involved in modeling to these people, because people actually do better when they see you do it. Really. So it takes a lot of work, but it gets the most results. And at the end of the day, I think the goal is that you have more transformed leaders than employees. You're able to move employees to being reactive, and to being very proactive. So they don't really wait; they take initiative, and that's what transformational leadership style does. Yes. So it's inspirational. You motivate teams. You're able to pick back and get feedback from them. Where do you need support? What kind of support do you need? It drives equity within the workspace.
so in a way, the type of business you are engaged in encourages one over the other because if if you are in a business that's what matters is the sales of product or how many customers you are able to bring in. We know one industry that is notable for that.
Yes. Yes. Sometimes people are not, they just feel like communication with employees take a lot of time. So I get the job done. And most times, those kind of leaders, they've actually been led that way. So that's what they know. And that's what has delivered the results that have brought them to where they are. So sometimes they are
So
open to just continuing
that
on that path
style.
of leadership. Yes. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the most
Maybe
effective.
yes, yes. At least we are better guided. How can leaders leverage technology to enhance their communication efforts?
Hmm. Okay. Thank you. I think, like I rightly pointed, communication makes you um, achieve more with your reach, but it doesn't exactly provide the understanding. that is required. So I'm communicating, but it doesn't mean that the goal or what I wanted to communicate is what is in the minds of the people. So there's the background work that needs to be done before you even begin to jump on communication platforms, really, because it just aids what you already have, the kind of content that you already have to pass on, right? So I'd say for for technology, I would say in areas where you have to communicate via tech, video calls are actually better than voice calls, because in video calls you can at least feed
I
off,
see.
inflect, you can hear the voice tone, you can see verbal cues and all of that, and then let there be constant instant, we have a lot of messaging platforms or communication channels right now, instant messaging, CRM tools, or platforms to drive communication in workplaces. So I'd say um, leverage those platforms and ensure that you have regular check-ins and feedback from people for you to have, regardless of what technology does. Technology can help you keep a track of, with polls and surveys, keep a track of the feedback, and get the right communication to people, collate data, gather insights from what people have said. That's what communication can do. But in terms of providing clarity with the message, that's the work that you have to do, you know majorly, in just ensuring that the goal of what I'm trying to communicate and the audience, have I thought about how this person would interpret the message, and just thinking clearly about how they would interpret the message is empathy, because you're thinking, okay, I want him to get what I'm saying, so maybe I should try it in this style and in that style. Technology just aids this, but I would say try more. The approach will be to take on more video platforms, because you're able to see and people can connect with you. People can, have a deeper connection than with voice or than with email, because emails can be very robotic sometimes. It's just a very clear professional language that emails go. And if you have to, communicate one on one, if there's a need for a one on one communication, if it's a sensitive conversation, stay away from stay away from tech. Tech just amplifies it. It doesn't pass. You're not able to feed off the emotion of people. I'd rather a one-on-one, so that at least the person can understand. You can, get feedback and all of that. Because sometimes with tech, you can't really get feedback, the right feedback from people. People can just write their comments and their thoughts, but you can't get the right feedback in a way that will be relevant to the receiver. Those will be my pointers for leveraging technology
Thank
properly.
you very much. You've actually addressed it very well. So, if I were to ask you for a party shot on this topic, what would it be?
Hmm. Parting short words. I would say again, communication is very vital, right? You We underestimate how much effective communication can either make a situation better or make it worse, right? And for the longest time, beyond being in a hurry to communicate, I think what is really important is what is being heard, not what is being said, right? So you might say something, but the
Yes, I
communication
know.
is one-way street. It's what did the person get from what you said, and do we have a common ground? So those are when you tick the boxes, you say, okay, allow the person to relate back to you what the person understood by what you said, and if it's in line, then fine, then you can proceed. You guys are met a common ground. But if it's not, then
Then you have
provide proper
communicated.
clarity. Yes, provide proper clarity. Provide proper and lead with empathy. Be open to sometimes people are impatient and then they're like, I've been saying this thing for a long time. You're not getting it. So lead with empathy. People's perspective are different. So what they're hearing is different from what you're communicating. So you have to be patient, understand their perspective, and then further clarify your perspectives.
Thank you very much, Wendy. You've done Excellently well. Thank you for the great
Thank
insight
you.
that you have shared with
Thank
us
you.
on this topic, and we'll
Thank
be
you.
better for it. So, I want to appreciate you on behalf of our online audience. I'm sure you gained one or two things today by the experience you have shared. So, thank you very much for coming on our show today
Thank you.
and allowing us to take a share of your Sunday evening. I hope if we
It's
come
a
calling
pleasure to
next
be
time,
here.
you will not consider us Oliver Twist. You oblige us. Thank you.
Not a problem, ma.
Thank you very much. God
Thank
bless you.
you.
We appreciate
Yes,
you.
you
So
too.
we'll quickly go because of time. Go on our wrap-up session. Our guest has done wonderfully well for us on this topic, and just touch on the important area. Importance of communication in leadership is what we are trying to emphasize. We need to see it as the foundation of leadership. We have to have effective communication, which should be considered as the cornerstone of any strong leadership. As our guests have said, it's not just speaking. What as the person you've spoken to heard? Is it the same as what you want or what you are trying to say? So we've been told it has to be very clear to give clear direction, build trust, and foster an inclusive environment. The impact of good communication or effective communication on organization success cannot be overemphasized. This is very important because it enhances productivity when it is better handled. We've talked about key communication skills. I guess I've shared that with us. Active listening. Don't just rush and say what you want to say without even listening to the person you are talking to. And sometimes listening helps you to get the right feedback so that you can also use that to reappraise the message you are passing. Clarity and conciseness of the message you are passing. Emotional intelligence, that has been very well explained to us. It's important to know how to manage that emotion when you are giving um, when you are in communication mode with anybody. It helps to make sure that you have effective leadership. Then some people know what they have in mind, but because they do not have the skill of that public speaking skill, it's difficult for them to convey their intention, their mind to the other people. They cannot provide clarity when they're speaking and all that. So you will be able to assess yourself and you know the areas where you are falling short to make sure that you get help. The feedback delivery is also an important key element of good communication. So we've talked about technology, we've talked about cultural sensitivity when we are in multicultural workplace. You have different people, different nuances. You have to be able to manage that when we are communicating. We also use communication effectively in managing conflict and also to provide transparency is very important so that people will know what we are doing. Once it's well communicated, there will be nothing under wrap that people will be concerned about. So for the essence of this show, what we are trying to do is to make sure that we understand the importance of communication and how best we can use it in our businesses. In conclusion, effective communication skills are not just an asset, but a necessity for business leaders today. Is something we cannot do without. Communication is the lifeblood of leadership. You must be able to communicate, not speaking, communicating. communicate to your team, to the vision of the business or the organization, the goal. You must be able to communicate effectively before you have the buy-in of your team members. The ability to articulate your vision, listen actively for suggestions that may come, and engage with diverse stakeholders can make the difference between success and failure. By investing in developing these skills, leaders not only enhance their own performance but also inspire their teams, foster innovation, and drive organization growth, which is what we aim at doing to help your business to grow. Once again, I would like to appreciate all our online audience that joined us today. We've recognized some, and some joined later. Saiwo Oloyede, and Femi Jaisimi, all from Lagos, and other people that have joined that we have not been able. We have Israel Aki Akinuwesi also joining us now. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you have gained one or two things from our discussion of today. If I hope all of you have enjoyed today's episode. If so, please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Comfort Eyitayo. Once you have subscribed, please turn on the notification button, like and share our videos. Stay updated with information about upcoming events, solutions, and offers on my Instagram account at Comfort Eyitayo, as well as my Facebook account at Comfort Eyitayo. Till I come your way again, let's remember that great leaders are great communicators. Let's strive to continuously improve our communication skills, practices, to lead with impact and integrity for a more collaborative and successful future. I wish you all well. Have a very blessed week. Thank you.